So I'm currently on the phone with Sid. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Sid. I play guitar in The Serpent's Ritual. Actually, I write all the music in The Serpent's Ritual, but mostly guitar. I sing in a hardcore project currently known as Yao Guai, and I play bass in the band Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley.
Excellent. I'm sure we'll get into some of that stuff, but for now, why don't you tell me how you first, got into music? What kind of made you want to start learning an instrument or writing music? What pulled you into it?
Yeah, so ever since I was a kid, music has been such a huge, important aspect of my life. Even before I was born, my father would hold earphones up to my mother's stomach and play music, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Hawkwind, all that type of stuff, mostly metal. And that really had a huge impact on my life going forward, from riding around in the car, putting in cassette tapes, handing them to my dad. Here's Monster Magnet, here's Hawkwind. Really had a humongous impact on me. And ultimately, it culminated in middle school was when I picked up my first instrument, and that was in band, and it was the trumpet. And I played the trumpet for about 7 or 8 years of my life, pretty heavily, and never really quite fell in love with it. It was nice, and I didn't really understand that I could be a musician other than just, I'll just play what's on the page. It wasn't until I was 15 and I picked up the guitar for the first time that I knew what it was like to really fall in love with music and an instrument. And around that time, a lot of my other friends were getting into their projects. They were making their own bands, and I didn't have anybody to start a band with. So I figured, well, I'll just do it all myself. And that led to me forming my current solo project, The Serpent's Ritual, in which I write, record, mix, master everything on my own.
Okay, so you kind of got into it at an early age, inspired by, prenatal neurons firing and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
How did you kind of make that transition from being a trumpet player to kind of picking a more contemporary instrument that you wanted to focus on?
Okay, yeah. So growing up, my dad always played guitar. He's the best guitar player I know, and he encouraged me, although never really pushed me into picking up the guitar. I tried it a few times in the past, mostly just on a whimsical nature, just, oh, yeah, I'll try this. And after a couple days that it didn't work out, I'd put it down. However, in my preferred genre of music, metal, the guitar is such a prominent figure in the music, and also as an icon of the genre as a whole. So I figured, well, I might as well start with that. The trumpet was nice for me, but monophonic instrument and valves and all that just really wasn't cutting it for me.
Okay. And I always ask this question, even though it kind of seems like an obvious question.
Mhm.
But what made you want to start playing the type of music that you play?
Something about metal has always really spoken to me, and I think in a lot of ways this gets mistaken for anger, this type of intense emotion, when in actuality I think it's just a great way to express intensity in any way, be it love, anger, fear, anxiety, anything like that. And to me, it's always just been such a powerful conduit to express rather complex emotions on a progressive scale.
Okay. And so once you did kind of make that transition from trumpet to guitar, did you immediately know that you wanted to start making metal music, or did you kind of have to get your feet wet learning, the traditional cowboy chords, as they call them? How did you kind of develop that process into, writing metal music?
So the first thing I really wanted to know was just what are the staples for metal, and I figured out how to do a power chord. And that kept me busy for weeks, just writing riffs and riffs with just power chords. I mean, they were terrible riffs, don't get me wrong. It's all I did to play a power chord. But that's when I first really felt that flame inside of me, where I was like,
Mhm.
wow, I really love this. Was just playing power chords, playing these pentatonic things, and always having a knack for metal. I just started learning Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Cannibal Corpse, things like that.
Okay. And then how long would it say would you say for you that it was when you started learning guitar, doing the power chords, up until you felt comfortable joining a band or getting people to be part of your band?
Yeah, so I never really thought of myself as a very talented player. I always just kind of left that for other people to decide. It saves me a lot of embarrassment in the long run. But I've been playing for many years now, and my skill has increased tremendously, as it would for anybody who's been playing for this amount of time, uh, for this with this amount of discipline. And eventually, I just knew I was at a point to where I might not be able to sweep pick like the best of them, but I can definitely play in a band. And I mean, if you can play guitar decently, you can play bass okay. And so I picked up the bass, started playing that, and then found my current band, which I am a member of, Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley, who were friends of mine in high school. And they were looking to expand the band and needed a bass player and extended the invitation to me. And so I went over to the previous bass player's house one day, and he was showing me a couple of the riffs and purposefully picked some of the hardest riffs and hardest songs to learn in the discography just to see what I was capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And I did pretty good on that. And so I guess that was what validated for me. Like, okay, I am good enough to play with other people.
Awesome, excellent. And so, at that same time that you kind of started playing with other people, were you also working on your solo material, or did that come later?
Oh, always solo material. So I actually started off just doing solo material. And it wasn't until here recently, after the release of my fourth album of solo material, that I began working with other people.
Okay. So all the other kind of projects that you were working on were kind of all side projects to what was essentially your main project, which was your solo material.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about that. What is your solo project? You mentioned there's 4 albums for it. What's kind of the creative driving factor there? What kind of keeps you going?
Honestly, what really keeps me going is just a passion for music in general, and especially for progressive metal. A lot of the genres I listen to and the bands that I listen to have such a dynamic type of sound that to try and emulate them is not as hard as it may seem, because it really opens you up to there's millions of things I can do, or millions of things I can throw in. And as far as an artistic output goes, music has always been extremely, extremely pleasing to me. It's been very fun to play and listen to, especially to see live. And what motivates me the most is the hope that one day I can possibly be to someone what my heroes were to me, or are to me.
Sure, definitely. So, how do you kind of encapsulate that in the material that you write? What is kind of your format for approaching, writing a song and then a whole album kind of thing?
Yeah, so when I go to write a song, I usually just start riffing around, and something will stick, and I can hear what I want the drums to be. I can hear what I want the lyrics to be like, where I want keyboards at, what I want the bass to sound like, and I start piecing it together from that. And usually from there, I can attach certain emotions to it, or figure out, oh, this is where I'm coming from when I say this. And that becomes a theme for an album, which in the actualization of it, the writing, the release of it, it is cathartic, but also something that if somebody hears it and can understand where I'm coming from, then they too can be like, oh, wow, this is a really interesting journey that this person has taken. And maybe this can help me out in the long run.
Sure, awesome. So in tandem with writing your solo stuff, I assume that you're still working with the other bands as well. Are they also writing with you? Are you guys putting out material? What's going on there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the hardcore band that I'm a vocalist for, Yao Guai, we just finished up an EP of sorts, pretty much, which I'm going to be engineering in my home studio. So that's finished. Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley has released an album and 2 EPs, relatively good sized fan base. And the main guitar player and singer writes the music, or at least writes the core of the music, and then of course, piece together bass and stuff, and offer certain sorts of insights creatively. We have a tour scheduled later this year, as well as just a couple one-off dates, which is really exciting because I've never actually played a live gig outside of marching band or concert band in high school.
Sure. Yeah, that'll be exciting. Tours can be a bit much, but they are fun. And then playing live is just fun in general.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So you guys are releasing material, and then you're also doing your solo stuff. I'll have you give out links for that stuff in a moment here. But why don't you share a couple memories of yours that have been really prominent to you, things that keep you motivated, whether it was like a show that you went to, or a song that you wrote, just something that sticks with you to remind you why you're pursuing music.
It definitely. So my journey thus far, having never played a gig, having never played any of my music or the music I'm involved with live, has been very introspective and internal. The most prominent thing that has happened to me thus far in my musical journey is I went to a concert once with Devin Townsend as the headlining act. And after the show, through a family friend who was a mutual friend of Devin Townsend's, I got to meet him and talk to him. And of course, 16-year-old me, I was stumbling over my words. I was absolutely terrified. Yeah, he offered the advice, which is just keep doing it. Keep playing, keep singing, keep playing your guitar, keep picking it up, keep writing, and you'll find your voice. And despite the fact that I've been told that many times before by other people, hearing it from my number one musical hero really just stuck with me. And that's been my personal mantra ever since. Ever since that happened, it's what really keeps me going, is just remembering you just got to keep doing it and you'll keep finding your voice. Also, just meeting other musicians around me, especially the folks from Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley and Yao Guai. It's been really magical just connecting, branching out, networking, especially since I already have kind of a backlog of music that people can really sink into, or at least hopefully sink into. It's really fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. So why don't you give us the links for all of your various projects, your social media? Where can people find you? Click on you and listen to your stuff.
Yeah. So if you want to find me on Spotify, if you want to find the Serpent's Ritual, that is just on any streaming service. Just open it up, look up the Serpent's Ritual. I would recommend checking out the latest album, Brother Machine, just came out. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can. It is at the Serpent's Writ 1 on Twitter. And of course, Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley goes the exact same way on Spotify. Just Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooley and you'll find it. And that's about it, honestly.
Awesome. And I'll have you send me links for that stuff as too, so I can make sure they get tagged. So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out, their last words. So just a message that, you feel you resonate with, that you want to put out there.
Yeah, definitely. So when an individual begins writing music, they do it for a reason. And it's important to not lose that. Although that reason may change throughout time, as all things do, I find a good rule of thumb, if you ever get down, is to just remember, be someone that your past self would be proud of. Be someone that kid who first fell in love with music would be proud of, that you think, wow, I'm going to write that someday. Teach me how to write that, or teach me how to play that, or be like, wow, this is me in the future. You just got to strive for that.